No Bunk Fam, welcome again to Birdie on One. I'm JJ, and I am with Lindzee Barrera, the founder and CEO of Birdie Girl Golf. Lindsay, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Excited to have you because you have such an interesting story. We go from Idaho to Vegas, and we also go from the corporate world to starting your own business and entrepreneurship. So I'd love to hit all of those. But first, I want to talk about your career as a collegiate golfer. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up just outside of Seattle, started playing when I was about competitively 8 years old, and eventually earned a scholarship to the University of Idaho, where I played Division 1 for 4 years. It was a great way to pay for my college, travel the country, got to see amazing places, play some really great golf courses. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of like performance anxiety. I struggled with that a lot. So when I was done, I didn't want to play after college. Kind of left the game for a while after that.
I can appreciate that. And I know in your company's bio, you talked about burnout during your collegiate career. What was it about the performance anxiety that became overwhelming or too much?
It was just a lot of pressure on myself. There wasn't a lot of the mental health resources that there are today. And I didn't recognize it at the time. So, just, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of nerves like on the first tee, a lot of catastrophizing or however you say that, on the, like if I would double bogey the first hole or something, it was like the rest of my round was done. So I just put a lot of pressure on myself that probably wasn't necessary. And my senior year, we were a top 20 team. So we went to NC2As, and it was just a lot of pressure that I didn't quite know how to deal with.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And we see a lot of golfers struggling with that as well, and just people in general with performance anxiety. But it seems like you were able to use your business and this beautiful way of creating these great golf accessories to turn the sport around for you and for other people. So, what is it about your later life in golf that has reduced that anxiety and brought more joy and fun back into it?
Yeah, so like I said, I left competitive playing for quite a while. My dad was my swing coach growing up. He was a PGA pro, and he passed away like in my late 20s, and I just kind of just lost my groove to play. I was like, it's not fun for me anymore. And then, like, right around when COVID hit and we couldn't do much else, I decided that I was going to get back into it. Living in the corporate world at the time, I'd been in corporate marketing for about 15 years. I said, well, I don't want to waste all this experience that I had growing up. Like, I felt like it was so valuable. And not to say I didn't use it throughout my corporate career. Like, it definitely brought me opportunities when I could join like someone's scramble team, got me in front of leaders at companies. But I just said, I'd really like to use this experience and see what's out there and create a company around golf. And ultimately, I wanted to find a gift for my friends, just like an accessory, because like gift giving with female golfers is such a big thing. And I couldn't find one that I really wanted to give. So I decided to create my own.
Some of the best business ideas come from that juxtaposition right there. And when you thought about that, what was that first, like, oh my gosh, I'm an entrepreneur moment that you had that really allowed you to say, I'm standing on my 2 feet, I'm doing this on my own. I'm proud, but I'm also a little scared, a little terrified about what I'm about to walk into.
Yeah. So first of all, I hid the fact that I was doing it from any of my friends because I was just kind of like, everyone's going to think this is dumb. Which I think is common. A lot of people have really good ideas, but they're just afraid to take that first step. And if you take that first step, you're going to be ahead of so many other people. And it's not as hard as you think it is. So I worked on the products for a while, had a hard time getting the quality I wanted. So like I originally was going to start with a necklace. And like any entrepreneur, you start out, I feel like in the US, you say, oh, all my stuff's going to be US made. And I quickly learned that that was almost impossible to do for golf products. But I worked on a ball marker necklace was my original idea and just had a hard time getting the quality I needed. So I said, well, maybe I'll just launch with some ball markers, which I felt like there were so many ball markers out there. But it turns out like the designs that I came up with, people liked, and it was something different than what was out there for females.
And we talked a little bit about this before the podcast started, and how Matt and I's business is very digital. So we're not necessarily managing inventories and products and materials, but even from day one, you had to really figure out, okay, where do I source my materials from? Which materials do I use? And how do the materials work with the designs that I want to create? So I'd love to hear more about that, even whether it's talking about in the past when you were just starting and figuring out how many materials, what materials to use, but also now during the current import issues that we're having, how that's impacted your business and your thought process about design.
Yeah. So first of all, like I said, when I started out, I said, oh, it'd be great if I could get USA made. And what I found out quickly is number one, I just couldn't afford to get the minimum quantities. And then they actually didn't make the products that I wanted. Magnets are usually very difficult to source in the US, and a lot of my products have magnets. And if they are being used here, they're typically imported. So what I found was it was much easier to get started as a small business to go overseas and get the quality I needed because they don't require high minimums and they're willing to like make a sample for me. So that's kind of what I found. As far as the tariffs go, yeah, they've been disruptive. For example, I can't say the name right now, but I was slotted into a large retailer that we're going to launch this spring, and it's our first large retailer. And so I had negotiated the contracts to get all the inventory for that retailer. And it was about to ship right before the tariffs were announced. So it was a stretch. I bootstrapped this business. I'm really big on not taking investors. It was a stretch to get that product made for the retailer and keep up with our growth just in our regular business. And then to have to pay upwards of 145% on that product. It's disruptive, and it was we couldn't plan for it. So we're just kind of working through that and working through our financial options to do that.
Yeah, and you mentioned bootstrapping your business. Matt and I did that as well. And just the anxiety of, well, this is savings or this is the income, and we're pouring it into this thing that we believe in, but we don't know what's going to happen once you put it out into the universe. Again, that's a scary cliff to kind of jump off of. But one of the things that we found super helpful for us was, even though we were the ones doing the business, we had a bunch of people around us that loved us and supported us. So for you as an entrepreneur, who were the people in your lives that were giving you love, giving you support, giving you advice to help get the business off the ground and continue to help it grow and mature as it has?
Yeah, well, I just have a ton of support around me. I'm very lucky to have that. I have my awesome husband who actually works for Shopify. So he helped me get started with that. My mom packs a lot of my orders. For the first year and a half, we were packing orders out of my house like mornings and nights, and she helped me with that. She still packs like tournament orders for me. And my friends, I have a great group of friends who are designers, videographers, photographers, and they're all pitching in to help me all the time. So all of my models on my website are my friends. So I'm very lucky to have a support system around me to get this off the ground.
That sounds beautiful. And the friends get to celebrate and all the joy that it brings to other people, and also gets to see the products right before they launch. But although you have friends to help you, how do you take care of yourself? Because that entrepreneurial journey is pretty exhausting. It can be very stressful, and we're big on self-care. So what are some of the things you do to take care of yourself and to find peace and also be able to find that performance?
Well, I don't know that I quite have that figured out. So, but I will say, it was I'm a mom of two. And when I was working in my corporate job and I started this as a side hustle, I mean, I was working a lot. I was waking up at like 5:30 and trying to get the business up and running, knowing that and it happened quickly. I think when I look back, it was 2 years and I was able to leave my corporate job. But at the time, I was just in a race like, okay, work really hard right now. And then hopefully you'll get some more freedom when you leave your corporate job. which turned out to be true. I'm lucky I work about 6 hours a day. I protect my time. I love the freedom of being able to plan my own schedule and do that where I didn't have that with my corporate job. I can go to all my kids' activities and stuff. So I'm a very responsive person by nature. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are. So sometimes I have to tell myself, okay, you don't have to respond to this customer like on a Sunday night, right? Like they're not going to, and usually they're so surprised if I do. So I try to protect my time. I have screen time limits because one of the things that's so hard as an entrepreneur where social media is like your business is to be on it all the time. And it's just not healthy. It creates anxiety for me. So I have screen time limits on all my apps. I mean, it's just a simple trick that helps me. I don't know that I have it quite figured out. I automate a lot of stuff. I tend to repeat things. That makes things easier.
No, it makes sense. It sounds like you're making a priority. So even if you haven't cracked the code yet, you're at least farther than a lot of people who may now just be coming to the realization like, oh, I should be taking care of my mental health to make sure that the business goes well. But one of the things that I would love to hear from you is, we're both parents. And one of the things that I feel, which sounds like you felt it or maybe even still feel it, is that guilt of like, I need to spend this time away from my family to build this business so that I can eventually either give it to them or have them reap the benefits of it. But man, like my kid's almost 7 years old. Like I want to spend time with him when he's young and I don't want to miss that time. But there's also this ability to catch the wave with the business and have it become something really big and beautiful. So how do you juggle some of that parental guilt that you might have of I'm missing certain things or I'm not as available as I want to be with the flip side of it of like, well, if I really do knock this out the park and it continues to trend the way that it is, that this could be a really beautiful thing for our family, not only financially, but just in terms of a gift that we can give to the golf community?
Yeah, I think that's a really hard question. I think like when I was in corporate marketing, I often fell into the trap of I got to work harder, and get to a higher level. And ultimately I got to the level and then was like, why did I do that? So, it just was so much work. And I realized that it was just better to work for myself so I could have more freedom and all that hard work was going somewhere. I think you have to make sure your priorities are in check. And if your goal is to be CEO or president of a corporate company, then more power to you. Not saying that's the wrong thing to do. My personal priorities, I don't feel like were in line and with something that I ultimately wanted. So it's definitely a hard thing. I don't know that I did a great job, but I did prioritize always making sure I was at bedtime, making sure I was at the sports activities, things like that. But it's never something you're going to win. It's hard.
No, it's definitely a lifelong process, and you hope that your kids and your partner understand some of the sacrifices that you're making them because, in part, you're making the sacrifices for them and for the benefit of the family and the community at large. So, no, I think that's a great response because we're never going to figure it out. And if you'd figured it out, you would have told me what the answer was. So, we're
Yeah.
all going to figure it out together. But one of the things I'd love to, as we kind of wrap up the conversation, talk about is just your relationship with golf now, right? You went from this experience of having really beautiful moments, learning the game with your dad, to playing collegiate golf, to unfortunately your father passing away and having that connection with the sport, to now having a golf brand with your name on it and doing really well. So what does golf look like for you when you step up to the first tee now with all this beautiful things going on in your life, out on the beautiful courses? What does the sport mean to you now?
Well, I think the thing that I really like about it now is the friendships that I'm able to have with golf. So about last year I joined just like a local league and I was really hesitant to do that just because I feel I'm terrible now compared to what I was, but for good reason, right? I don't practice enough, that sort of thing. So just getting over the embarrassment. I don't tell anyone I played college golf in the league, but some people know because they know my story online and they'll tell people. I'm like, please don't tell people that. But then, I just got over it. I joined the league and met some really incredible women through it. So I do it every Tuesday night. It's very low key because it's like a 9-hole eclectic. So I can have my eights and, not worry about it. Like last week, I think I had 3 birdies and shot 44 and no pars on 9 holes. So, but I like it because it's an eclectic. So it doesn't really matter if you have like an 8 or a double bogey on a hole. So, and then I've been starting to intentionally practice because it's very soothing to me. Like I like to go out there with my AirPods on and hit balls and then putt and chip and do all the things because it's mental health for me. So it doesn't frustrate me like it used to if I didn't hit something good. So I've just kind of worked through that and it's fun for me now.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And you said before that you might not have had the self-care routine down, but as you're talking, it sounds like being at the course, hitting the driving range, doing a little putting with a little bit of music on, that might be your vibe. That might be the thing that gives you the opportunity to take the stress level down so that you can be the person that you want to be for yourself, person you want to be for your partner, for your family, and also for the business. So maybe you got it down more than you think you do.
Yeah. I also like, just walking on the golf course is so good for you too. And I encourage women to even go out as a single and play by yourself. Because you learn a lot.
Totally, totally. Now, one of the things that I've been told, because I have some friends that play in leagues, is that playing in leagues is the business. Like, you should do it. It's so much fun. It's so exciting. You get to meet people. So, sell me on playing on a league. Sell the listeners on playing in the league. How has it been such a huge impact on your just enjoyment of the game?
Well, it's honestly just fun times. Like usually it depends what league you join. Like there's more competitive leagues than others. The one I'm in is just very chill. Lots of different people from different backgrounds. It's all women and you usually get paired with different people. You can get paired with the same person, but they usually split up the league like ours is in 3 different divisions. So you're playing with people that are closer to your level. So you don't have to worry about like competing with the person that plays every day if maybe you're not as experienced. And then also you have a handicap. If you don't have a handicap, I'd recommend getting started. You can get one with like 4 or 5 rounds. And the league I'm in though, she doesn't even require a handicap. So the first year I didn't have one. So I just played and didn't compete. But I've met lots of great women through it and lots of connections for my business. They had me come out and sell my products one day, which was really fun.
Oh, cool.
So highly recommend finding a league.
Awesome, awesome. And last but not least, you live in Idaho. And I'd love to hear about golf culture out there because I've never been to Idaho, but I've definitely seen some pictures of some of the beautiful golf courses. So, where are some of the popular golf courses in the state, and where are some of your favorite places to play?
Yeah, well, I think we're known for like the Coeur d'Alene Resort. So people always say that to me, but that's way up north. It's like 9 hours away from Boise.
Oh, wow.
So we have a lot of great city courses in Boise. We have Quail Hollow and Warm Springs, and they're highly invested in and not very expensive to play. So that's where I play. I'm not a member of a country club. It's actually in very high demand in Boise. Like we don't have enough courses for the demand, it seems. So it's hard to get a tee time, but we also have a couple hours away in McCall, a really nice like destination getaway, and it can be not very expensive to golf there too. There's about 3 or 4 courses and it's in the mountains. So that's definitely seasonal just during the summer. We can typically golf most of the year in Boise. There's a few months where it depends if it snows or not. You got to take off. If you're into cold weather golf, you can golf here most of the year.
There you go. There you go. Well, one of my goals is to try to golf in all 50 states. And so I'm definitely listening intently about what you have to say about golf in Idaho. But before we get you out of here, I would love for you to tell the people where they can find more about you or find more about your golf range.
Yeah, so we're at birdiegirlgolf.com and we have a bunch of women's golf accessories from ball markers to golf cart seat covers to towels and bags. And we continue to expand our product line. You can also find us on Instagram at Birdie Girl Golf.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for jumping on the pod today. We're so excited to see the brand's growth and also when we find out who that store is that is going to be selling your product soon. Can't wait to hear that. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great.